Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about and show you how you can learn, explore, and be a champion on risk management lifecycle, or how you can build a capability for doing the cloud security risk management lifecycle, right? So there are different things that needs to be configured, needs to be validated, and not only validated, but you as a risk management professional, how you can go ahead and do the risk identification, risk assessment, risk resource, along with risk reporting, right? Those are the four pillars where you as an individual working into risk role or a risk profile, right? And how those capabilities or those pillars would help you to stay into the your role, as well as how you can go ahead and make sure whatever the organization is building across the cloud platform, as well as any platform, or be it on premises, hybrid, or cloud, or anything, right? Even if it is on premises, or even if it is in-house developed system and software, still you would have those capabilities to identify risk. You would be doing all of that capabilities, all of those identification, reporting, and resourcing, and then reporting those to the respective stakeholders and teams and business units, right? And that is why a risk professional is the one who is going to actually take all of those actions, right? So I'm going to walk you through, and this is going to be again PowerPoint presentation, but this is going to be very useful and helpful to learn anyone and any person, right? It is not only for the person who has capability or who has experience into risk or cloud or anything, right? Even people who don't have any experience into risk profile or risk management, they can also learn and explore, and it's going to be the great career opportunity for them as well, right? So let me share my screen, and then I'll walk you through some of the risk management life cycle in the context of technical content, right? And then I'll walk you through from the risk identification or from the risk management side. So there are two aspects over here. One is with the technical side, right? You would also know, or you must know about the technical capability as well, how you are going to do, because you as a risk professional, you are not going to implement the change or implement the configurations and everything, but you are going to held those technical teams responsible for their configurations, their capabilities that they are going to build. And whenever you are going to do risk assessment, would be able to identify what are the risks, how those risks can become threats, and can be situations for the organizations which really they don't want to get in, right? And that is why you must know the technicality bit of it, even if you are not expertise on it, but still you can enforce the risk factors on each of those implementations or integrations, right? So let me share screen where I'll show you the technicality of the risk management lifecycle, and then I'll walk you through the risk capabilities, right? So let me share it here. All right. So this is the first one, which is cloud security risk management lifecycle, right? So this is for everyone to learn, explore, and apply the same skill and learnings and experience for engineers, architects, and learners. So learners could be anyone, even if I have to say that I am as an individual learning something new every day, that's something I'm a learner, right? So it's applicable for everyone. It is not for only the people who are working into the risk field or cloud security or anyone, right? So it's for everyone, right? So let's jump on. So the first factor or first capability of risk is risk identification, right? So what it says is how you are going to discover the potential risks in your cloud systems, right? So there are different tools, frameworks, and there are different hands-on assessment tools that you can run on as well, right? For example, starting with different tool sets, including different cloud platforms. In the Azure, we have Defender for Cloud, AWS Security Hub, GCP Security Command Center, right? So those are the different tools. Those are available for doing the assessments and discovering if there are any risks that might be a potential situation for us to fall into a situation which really is not business or organization is looking for, right? And those would also be tied up, and we can bring the frameworks to be able to map those with the frameworks, and we can be compliant enough and not falling into the situations, right? And those includes NIST CSF, ISO 27001, CS benchmark, and there are different as well. And then if you wanted to take an example of this is public S3 bucket access to anyone, that's going to be a risky if there is a data which is a confidential, maybe financial data or healthcare data or any data which is not something really should not be accessible to anyone. And if that put on publicly accessible to anyone, that means that's the biggest risk, right? And something like legacy authentication is enabled across Microsoft 365, where if legacy protocols are accessible, that means wherever it is integrated in the system, that means or that may lead into a situation where that respective application gets access to the bad actors and they would simply get into the systems and do unwanted things, right? So those are the situations and those are the few of the examples, but you will get an idea how you are going to start with the identification of risk, right? And then you can start engaging with the respective teams, respective people who are actually responsible for building right set of implementation configurations and how you can map the frameworks. And you can also ask them to do and run right set of assessments on those integrated and implemented systems so that you get to see what's implemented, what is not, and whether those are falling under the frameworks and compliance securities framework and parameters as well, right? So this was the first one, which is a risk identification. Okay, the second one, risk assessment, right? So how it is going to be and how you can do it, right? So risk assessment is going to be something evaluating likelihood and impact of risks. So this means that there are two parameters how you are going to look at the likelihood of each impact as well as each risks that are there, even if those are configured correctly, but you need to do this in order to make sure your configurations, your system, everything is safe and secure, and you are not putting anything on risks, right? Then methods includes a risk matrix, including low, medium, high likelihoods into impact of that risks, right? So there is one of the risk graph as well. And if I have, I can show you there, right? And you can see the example, public S3 access, which is a likelihood and high impact with a high likelihood and impact is going to be critical because if the data is confidential and that really needs should not be accessed publicly, then that's going to be high with critical. Another example where we have legacy authentication enabled across Microsoft 365, this is going to be likelihood as a medium and impact is high of this as well. So how you can track this out, where you can build a risk register in a simple Excel file, or if you have right set of tooling like Power BI or something, you can build that risk register and the same can be shared across the teams to be able to get their awareness and they should be able to take the actions, right, to minimize those risks. The next is a risk response, right? So how you are going to respond to those risks, right? Where you would be deciding what to do about identified risk. What are the steps you should take? What are the actions you need to take in order to mitigate those risks? At the same time, you also wanted to keep the integrations and implementation intact so that it also does not impact the business, right? So you would take the different approaches, including treat, accept, transfer, or avoid. So these are the different approaches. So these approach says that treat means you are going to take actions. Accepted would be if we are ready to accept the risk, transfer that risk to the different teams or different owners. And if we are saying avoid it, that means we are not taking or we are not accepting risk as well as we are not treating it as a risk. and we are simply avoiding and we are not paying enough attention to it, right? For example, S3 bucket where we are treating it restrict that access immediately and enforce the encryption as soon as possible so that we wanted to keep that data safe and secure, right? And we don't want let anyone access that over the public internet, right? The next example, legacy auth in M365, treat that block with conditional access or block that legacy authentication wherever it is enabled across the 365 environment. And the hands-on is going to be something like apply remediations in Defender for Cloud and IAM SCP policy in AWS because we wanted to remediate that risk across the different platforms, be it AWS or Defender for cloud in Microsoft ecosystem, right? And even if it is any other cloud platform, then it should be mitigated as expected. The next is reporting, right? So reporting is something where you need to communicate risks, decision decisions and actions to the stakeholders, right? So what this is going to be is something where you would create a risk register, and upon that you would also be creating different dashboards which is going to show the different capabilities implemented, which capability or which integration has a risk, and what are the approaches that we should take, right? And if we are ready to do the treats or take the approach which is a treat, right, then avoid or transfer or accept any of those, and that should also be communicated, right? For example, translate technical risks into business impact and whether that is going to impact the business by bringing, whether it is low or high, the compliance score for the organization, which is definitely going to impact the business if that is not appropriately implemented and taken the right set of actions. And for example, generate that report for in Defender for Cloud or any other capability which is provided by the cloud solutions provider or something like that, and build that summaries, and that is going to be a communication report. So in simple terms, you as a person into risk profile or risk professional, you would go through and you would work on all of these capabilities, right? And then it is also very important to communicate those risks, right? And take the appropriate actions and communicate with the different stakeholders so that they are also aware what are the actions, what are the mitigations or remediations, along with if we don't take those risks or we don't implement or we are simply avoiding, what are the consequences to the business and systems and everything together, right? So that is how it is going to be. And continuous risk management life cycle. So this is going to be something where continuously going through across the risk management life cycle. So life cycle is something across risk management where whatever we are doing it to make sure the business is not put into risks, right? And is a continuous process where we wanted to uh, do all the risk assessments and report it to communicate it and do the right set of implementation as well, including automating using CSPM tools like Prisma Cloud, Waze, Orca, Defender for Cloud. And the simple and straightforward takeaway is something like identify those, then assess, respond to it, report it, and repeat the process, right? So this is how it is going to be the continuous complete life cycle. And there are a few key takeaways I have mentioned here, right? Which starts from the small one where you can pick one of the environment, identify risks with free tools, or maybe you can start building your risk register, right? And maintain all those risks and assess the impact and report in the business language wherever it is going to impact, right? Repeat the life cycle continuously, and the simple state or simple mantra of this is going to be become proactive and not reactive so that you are going to take a right set of actions to be able to limit, mitigate risks and not fall for any unwanted situations, right? So this is how it is going to be as a technical aspect of risk professional or risk management. So this was all about the technical side where you can go ahead and take the steps. But I'm going to show you another presentation where it is going to be mapping risk management life cycle with the compliance and all other frameworks, right? So let me share that presentation here quickly, and I will take you through that one. All right, let me share it again. All right, so here you can see the risk management life cycle into the risk management or risk professional capability altogether. So starting with what is the risk identification? Again, you might say, okay, this is repetitive, but this is not a complete repetitive from the technical point of view. This is point of view of the uh, frameworks and how you can start learning, right? And how you can go ahead and implement those from identification to the reporting and assessment and responding to those risks, right? So let's say, what is the goal of risk identification, right? Where you need to spot potential risks that could affect the business objectives, operations, and technology, right? And how you are going to learn and explore those, where you are going to map those by studying and mapping those frameworks, including ISO, NIST, RMF, SOSO, COSO, and FAIR. And you would also create a risk register for mock organizations, or this is in context of when you are doing assessment of any of the company or any of the role or any of the implementation or any of the project, you would go through this one, right? So you must know about these things, right? Where you can use SWOT analysis, categorize risk, strategic, financial, or cyber threats, or any other, right? And what are the tools that you are going to use, including Excel, Jira, ServiceNow, JRC, Archer. So these are the few tools that I have mentioned here. And also you would see example, let's say, which says cloud migration risks, where data leakage, downtime, cost overruns, and non-compliance, right? So these are the things that you would start working on and start building so that you get to know and understand what you are going to do, how you are going to take the next steps and actions, right? So basis on that, you would start from the risk identification, from the risk profile point of view, and you take the next steps. The next is risk assessment again, right? Where you will evaluate identified risks and prioritize them to take the next steps, like quantitative risk, right? Qualitative, use the risk matrix, likelihood, or versus impact, and explore fair for cyber risk quantification, right? Where you can rank risks, including high, low, medium, and you can then prioritize them, assign actual uh, dollars and percentile, including whether it is impacting the business, if yes, how, and what is the likelihood of that one, right? And then, for example, you can see that into the example where data leakage, which is a 40% likelihood, which is going to impact 500K, right? And that's the high priority, right? So unexpected costs, which is 70% likelihood, which is 100K impact with medium priority. So this way you need to identify that and prioritize those risks, right? And basis on that, you can go ahead and respond to those risks. So responding is something where you would work with the respective teams to be implementing those risks, mitigate those risks, and make sure platform organizations and everything is safe and secure. So this is a risk response where you would decide what to do about this risk, a kind of treatment strategy where you need to avoid and take the appropriate approach here, whether it is avoiding, mitigate, transfer, or accept, right? So if you are avoiding, where you would stop risky activities, mitigate, reduce likelihood or impact, then transfer, right? So you would shift that risks to insurance or vendor SLAs or some other situations as well. So you are not going to be bothering to the internal, and that is going to be transferred to the other, be it internal or external organization. And they accept, where you would tolerate risk if cost is greater than impact, right? That way. So simple example here, encrypt data to mitigate leakage, budget alerts for cost overruns, accept SLA downtime, ensure GDPR checks. So these are the few of the examples where you can simply decide and respond to the right set of risks, right? And take the right approach and strategy. The next is reporting, right? So as I said, it's a communication way of communicating those risks, right? So communicate risk and response clearly, which is build a dashboards and reporting capabilities where you can make that tailored report for executives, tech teams, and regulators, right? Who can simply go through and understand it, how you are going to mitigate, how you are going to take steps, and whether you are compliant with the compliance, security, and everything, and different frameworks as well, right? So examples including top three risk summary, right? Then tech teams where you would mention detailed controls and monitoring steps that the risk mitigation should happen and going to take, right? So based on that, it's going to be the implementation. And the lastly, how you can gain some experience over here. So do the case studies, colonial pipelines ransomware. So this is just an example, but join the risk simulation exercises and cyber ranges along with create mock risk registers for different platforms, including cloud migration, along with the deploying and implementing Microsoft 365 rollouts. So these are the examples, but the same things can be implemented across different systems, including payment system implementation and any other, right? So, yep, that is all I wanted to show you and talk about. And hope you learned something new. And let me show you one of the example of how risk register looks like, right? So let me open it up here. So here's the risk register sample, right? I have that with me here. And you can see that, let me hit that edit. All right, so you can see there are risk ID, risk description, category, likelihood percent, then impact dollars, so impacting the money, and risk scope score along with treatment strategy, right? And then, so these are the different risks, for example, from risk 1 till 4, where it says data leakage during cloud migration, which is a category or falling under security. What is the likelihood? 40%. What is going to be impact of this one? And a risk score and strategy or treatment strategy. So where you would see mitigate that one by deploying or encrypting data during transfer and perform penetration testing, right? Similarly, you would do all the different risks and then you will create this register. So same can be communicated to the different stakeholders, different teams, and they should be able to take appropriate actions, right? So based on that, it is going to be something either they should accept it, avoid it, or what actions they wanted to take or they should take, right? So that is how it is going to be. And upon doing all of this stuff, you would simply take or respective team would simply take the action. So this role, which is going to be risk management or risk professional, and it's whatever the presentation I have given, it's not only for risk profile or risk professional, but it's going to be for everyone actually who is going to work across the cloud platform or on premises or hybrid, right? Because they must know if they are doing something, they are either putting that workload into a risk or if they are not doing the right configurations, right? So that should be something they have to do it appropriately and take the right actions. So, yep, that is what I wanted to show you and talk about it, and hope you learned something new. And let me know if you have any questions, any doubts, anything that you wanted to know and learn, and happy to collaborate on it, right? And don't video to, right? So don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, people around, right? And then subscribe to the channel as well, right? So that's all for this video, and thanks for watching, and bye for now.